Okay, so from the last video, you know that I just got back from Japan, and while I was there, I went to a few tool stores. Well, this is what I bought while I was at the tool stores. We're going to start with what's out of frame here, which is this tool bag. So this is the SK11 Pacatto bag. I don't know if I said that right. It's the medium. And what I really like about it is the way it opens. You can see it opens into a square. So whatever tools you have are enough to fill up this section, and you can see it closes and uses a little bit of a Velcro there. I'm not a huge fan of that Velcro, but because of the way you hold it with these straps, it's going to stay closed, which is good. But when you open it, it creates double the amount of room that you had in there. So finding tools isn't difficult. And I got this because it's a perfect little thing for my work tools when I get home from work. I don't use tool pouches like most people do. I put them in my pockets, and I've sewed my pants so that every tool has a specific pocket. And when I get home, they always just end up going on a shelf. So now I have something that they can be put in. And this guy is $8.80 USD. Banana 4 scale, I guess. Okay, so let's go next with these Vessel single-ended Gosai Phillips number 2 bits. They say they're Phillips, but you know, with Vessel they can always be most likely JIS bits. And you can see if I take another bit here, they are magnetic here. Okay, now they do have the power insert type, but this is the Japanese type, and you can see that's different than the American type because it's almost twice the length at the end to where the little ball detent is. Okay, and to come in the package, this was $4.52 USD. Here's a Banana 4 scale. So next up, we have the Vessel PS16 1110. I don't know what else to call this guy, but this is a plus-minus bit. So the awesome thing about this is for those electrical outlets boxes that either take a Phillips or a flathead, this is going to make it so that this goes in there just perfectly every single time, and you get no cam out because of that extra straight. It has this plastic piece over the shaft, and the purpose of that is to prevent short circuits. So when you're going into an electrical outlet and you're, moving it, sometimes this can jiggle around, and maybe this part might hit another piece of metal, and this is to prevent the shorts. I originally had a number 2 out, but it was longer, and I thought I don't need the length on that, so I'll put that back and I'll get the shorter number 2, not realizing it was a number 1. So we'll see how useful this guy is for me. And this was $6.46 USD. Here's a Banana 4 scale. Okay, so next up is this Vessel ball grip holder, the QB22R. This was $5.32 USD. It's great for power bits, whether they're the North American style power bits. You just push them in there and they have a bit of play. But when you want to pull it out, you just pull this back and it releases them. And of course the Japanese power bits with the longer ones work even better, of course, in there. And the nice thing about that is this would be hanging from here on your tool bag or something like that. And all you have to do is pull. So what happens when you're doing that is this actually ends up going back and releasing the ball detent. So I think it's actually a really great system, and you can use it as a little screwdriver. The problem with it is that there is a little bit of a back and forth. So it's not perfectly ideal. I would like it to not have that, but to work as a little tiny screwdriver, it's going to work just fine. It is not good for insert bits. So you can see here, you can put it in there and then it's not coming out. As you can see, Banana 4 scale. this is a really nifty, tiny little ratchet. Very simple mechanism. It is 36 teeth. I like how tiny it is. It is pretty tiny here. It comes with these little bit carrier, and I actually like the bits and the bit carrier. I would say the bits seem like they're okay quality, but probably not great. They're not going to hold up. But I like the color coding that these have. And this was $9.20 USD. The bits actually stay in there with a relatively strong magnet. And yeah, to change direction, you can see you have a little switch right there. And now it's different direction. Next up, we have the Trad TSR 11 Ratchet. I really like how thin this sucker is. Like, if you look, compare it to this Ratchet, it's super thin. What else can I show you here? Okay, if you compare it to these bits, at its thinnest point, it's almost as thin as this bit. So you can tell that this thing is very thin. It's going to get in really small areas. And if you notice, when you stick the bit inside, you'll notice that right there, a ball detent right there engages. Now it's just a friction bit, and there's probably a little spring in there, but it's really nice. It's 72 teeth. It has PAT on there, so I'm guessing it's patented. I'm not sure about that. This was $11.87 USD. It comes with this little bit kit, but I kind of think this is garbage. Yeah, but in terms of this little guy here being on a keychain or something like that, and the size and weight are really good. You have the button back here to change which direction. And if the bit ever does get stuck in there, you can push it out from this side. Here's a banana for scale. I kind of messed up. I wish I had not bought these ratchets because I didn't really need them. I just kind of ended up liking them because of how tiny they were. And I ended up putting this other pair of pliers back that I can't seem to find anywhere online that were really cool. I was in a hurry and I wasn't thinking clearly. But I still think these ratchets are pretty neat, and I like the memories that they give me, so it's not a total mess up. So next up are the IPS SF165G pliers. Now I'm pretty confident you've seen these online already. If not, there are a lot of people making reviews of these pliers. And I've put off getting them because, you know, normally they're not a great price here. However, there they were $11.21. And if you don't know about these, a quick run through, these are slip joint pliers. They have 3 slip joints, and kind of like the snap-ons that have 3, the middle one is raised a little bit, so it's not the same level. So you'll notice that when it's there, the tips aren't parallel. For some, that's a big deal. But what makes these guys special, okay, is that on each of the positions other than the middle, they actually are spring-loaded. There's a little spring right inside of there. I don't know if we can see that. And there's a little spot you can see milled out right there, so that when it's in its middle position, it doesn't engage. And they do this so that it can be stored without having any tension on the spring. At least that's what it says here when I translated this. I like the coating on the handles. It's actually a really nice grippy handle without being a magnet for garbage or, you know, dust or anything gross. The ergonomic shape is awesome. The fact that they curve slightly makes it really nice to get in there in a more natural way. I always like when pliers have a little bit of a curve to them. It makes it feel easier to use. They have a wire cutter in there, which, you know what, let's test. So here is 18 gauge galvanized steel, and this cuts through it no problem. And then here is 10 gauge, 14 gauge rather, galvanized steel. So let's see how that works. A little bit more effort, but doesn't take any effort to get, it doesn't take any real effort to get through those. So they cut galvanized wire awesome. Now it says here, now it says here, 30 millimeters diameters of gripping size. And then I looked up online because it feels like it would be, that feels more than 30 millimeters at its largest there. So I looked it up, and actually online on their website, they say 35 millimeters or 1.4 inches of gripping size. So let's actually grip some pipes here. So start with here, I have our trusty little test pipe that we use on Happy Little Tools, which is 3/4 of an inch. And I feel like right here, we can get a good grip on it, but it doesn't want to bite down very heavily. I can twist this around no problem, no matter how tight I try to get these. So for 3/4 inch pipe, I don't think these are very good. I would much prefer a smaller Knipex or something like that. Now for the 1.25 inch, it grips and has a lot of points of contact. And actually, for some reason, on the larger one, really grips it really, really well and doesn't slip at all. Now, of course, that's just hand testing, but I think it gets the point across that certain pipes, certain sizes will grip better than others. So I don't know if this is the best wrench for pipes, but it's going to grip a lot of different shapes and sizes of different objects very well because those teeth are pretty good. Here is a banana for scale. Last up, we have the IPS HLS 300 needle nose pliers. And these were $19.88 USD. Now, these look very familiar to me when I saw them. I thought, wait a minute, those look like the Milwaukee cross-handle extra long needle nose pliers. And to an extent, they have similar designs. However, these are a slip joint. And you can get into tinier locations and get good grips on things of different sizes. I love that these are slip joint pliers. I kind of have a thing for slip joint pliers. Yeah, there's a lot of different gripping areas. So as we can see here, we have two small circular gripping areas so that you can grab little tiny wires, smaller cabling rather, without damaging it or marring it up. You have a small and a bigger aggressive teeth area. You have all of the little teeth here, there, and there. And then if you notice, the very tip connects right there, but not throughout. Now, I don't know if this is meant to do this way, but I notice that when I squeeze extra hard, it actually bends the tip slightly right there. So hopefully it's meant to do that and I don't just have a bad pair. I really like these guys. I wish the ends were slightly smaller so that they actually felt more needle nosy. So you can see under load, the tips are straying away from each other a little bit there. Not the worst ever, but does have a wire cutting section. So let's test that guy up. So again, here's the 18 gauge. And so it works all right, but I did notice something there I'll tell you in a second. Here is the 14 gauge, So yeah, actually the 14 gauge wasn't bad. Now I don't need much strength because of the high leverage, because of how long these guys are. I don't need much strength to cut that wire, but I did notice that there's a little bit of a space in between these. So when you're cutting that wire, the wire does have a tendency to want to get stuck a little bit between the two. So I think that you probably can go smaller than 18 gauge here, but not too much smaller. These might not work there. And something I noticed when I was just using these is that you can't see it, but I pinched my hand, kind of choked up on it. This actually pinched my hand, and it hurt a little bit. Here is a banana 4 scale. I messed up, and I bought the wrong things because I was in a rush and I didn't take the moment to catch my breath. I could beat myself up about it, or I could instead remind myself that it's okay to make mistakes and forgive my mistakes. When you notice a mistake, forgive yourself. And it's a great opportunity to learn and grow. Thanks for watching.